This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening, everyone. There's a dramatic escalation in the dispute between a major airline and the King Island Council. In breaking news, Regional Express has announced it's cancelling 30% of its service to the island because of a rise in airport fees. Our reporter Louise Hedger joins us now. Good evening, Louise. You were following this story 2 weeks ago. What's changed?
Well, Joe, Regional Express says despite its warnings, the council hasn't budged from its plan to increase airport charges. The airline said that would threaten the viability of its services and has now put those words into action. It's cancelling 4 flights every week between King Island and Melbourne, equating to a 30% reduction to its services. This will be effective from mid next month. That still leaves some time for a resolution to the dispute, and Joe, no doubt this news will trigger some political reaction.
Certainly imagine it will. Louise, how is the council responding to this news?
Well, the airline only announced these cancellations within the last hour, Joe. We contacted the council a short time ago, and there certainly are concerns. As we understand, the council hasn't even finished a dialogue with the airline, and we're working on a time to discuss the issue. But Joe, it's the wider King Island community that will be suffering as this dispute continues.
Yes, we certainly wait to see what happens with this one. Louise, thank you very much for that. Louise Hedger joining us there. An end is in sight tonight to the decades-long saga of a Tasmanian eyesore, with Devonport Council confirming it's sold the city's former maternity hospital site to a developer. The building sat in disrepair for years and was plagued with asbestos contamination. Now demolished, the land could be home to a major residential development.
A blank canvas for developers on the site of the old Devonport maternity hospital. Council today confirming it sold the land to KCB Developments for more than $650,000.
We're really excited to be part of particularly this development, this parcel of land that obviously has so much interest to the town. It's a great opportunity for us. The former hospital building became a blight for the community. Over more than 2 decades, the asbestos-riddled site fell into disrepair. And while redevelopments were pitched, none was successful.
It's not really been able to achieve anything despite at least 2 or 3 purchases and sales, and it's remained here and continued to deteriorate, of course, and continued to be an eyesore for our community.
Last year, the council bought the site and with state government assistance ordered the eyesore be demolished, turning a dangerous, dilapidated liability into a prime greenfield site ready for development.
It was essentially a home for rats and not much else, and there was no particular future on the table for that.
As for the future now, the developer is yet to reveal its exact plans.
It is a residential, zoned residential, so obviously it lends itself to residential properties. What form that takes going forward, it's yet to be seen.
KCB hopes to have a development application submitted by the end of the year. Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
Labor is warning of an ongoing catastrophe at the Royal Hobart Hospital after another level 4 escalation was declared late yesterday. More than 70 patients were in the emergency department, with a quarter of them waiting to be transferred to a ward.
This has become so commonplace that it's barely news anymore. It is well beyond time for the Premier to step in and take action. There are often stresses, but we're working through it. 630 new jobs have gone into that agency in health, and hundreds of millions being invested.
The Tasmanian Health Service says escalation protocols are a normal way for hospitals to manage periods of high demand. A multi-million-dollar development planned on Hobart's eastern shore is under intense criticism, with local residents raising concerns about the inappropriate use of Crown land. The local council says it's going through the normal development process, but those opposed say they haven't been consulted.
This is the recreational site stirring controversy. There's plans for a large tourism development here, and locals are furious.
It's an imposition on a beautiful small natural reserve.
A meeting held last night attended by hundreds, calling on the council to revoke its agreement with Hunter Developments.
I think if for some reason or other planning approval's not awarded for this, then that's a suggestion that council will take on board.
Concerns now raised about what's being called a lack of community consultation, as well as its impact on traffic congestion and the environment, including taking out half a population of the endangered sun orchid.
Things are happening out of the public eye. It's not only the council, it's a microcosm of what's likely to happen all over Tasmania.
This development proposal includes more than 100 accommodation units, a 200-seat function centre and 2 restaurants with capacity for 200 seats each, as well as a large viewing platform, which means that at any one time there could be more than 900 people here on Rosny Hill.
So that scale of the project is something that will be considered as part of any planning consideration.
Calls for the council to consider a further expression of interest process for appropriate site development.
The community initiated the call for improvements, asking for facilities, but it needs management. It doesn't need massacre.
The land is being leased from the government to the council, meaning before any development is approved, it has to be granted owner consent.
If it is leased or sold off, it will set a precedent for privatising other Crown Land Reserve and public reserves around Tasmania.
Crown land belongs to the people. If the government of the day, representing the people, wants to consider developments on it, it does that.
The developer couldn't be contacted for comment. Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
Treasurer Scott Morrison is the latest federal face to hit the Braddon campaign trail. The Liberals were again out courting the business vote, with the by-election date now just 10 days away.
If there's one place Brett Whiteley likes campaigning, it's on the factory floor. Donning the high-vis vest most days this week, there's little question the Liberal candidate is out for the business vote. Alongside the Treasurer in Penguin, the pair were today outselling the government's company tax cut plan at a fiberglass maker.
We have legislated to bring the tax paid by this business from 30% to 25%.
Businesses with a turnover between $10 and $50 million would snap up the cut. Companies waiting to turn a profit are eagerly eyeing the potential reduction.
Haven't been for a few years. We've been reinvesting constantly for the last 5 years. It's very important that when we do get over that hurdle, that we're not being lumbered with a big tax bill.
Meanwhile, Labor candidate Justine Kay kept a low profile, campaigning away from the media today. She's expected to make more announcements tomorrow. Sean McComish, Southern Cross News.
Tasmanian retailers are being warned to keep their surveillance technology up to date, with new figures showing shoplifting is on the rise in some parts of the state. Police say the best way for small business to combat light-fingered customers is to report the incident, no matter how small.
Well, they might think that it's inconvenient to the police or it's a small amount, it's not worth reporting, but those small amounts can actually help identify offenders that might be committing more crimes.
It's estimated Tasmanian business owners lose millions of dollars each year to theft. Launceston's council is looking to give Hobart a run for its money, with plans announced to move Beerfest to New Year's Eve. Organisers say despite the event being a drinker's delight, it will still be family friendly.
Way down the road, but Tasmania's New Year's Eve celebrations could be in for a shake-up, with plans revealed today to move Beerfest to the end of the year.
Having something like Beerfest, that traditionally delivers many thousands of people to the city, knowing that it's out there, I know that there will be a huge following of that brand.
Organisers say the event will be bigger and bolder, with hopes it will grow to rival the Taste of Tasmania.
We definitely want to be seeing Beerfest delivered on New Year's Eve for years to come, and we want to grow to not just be one day, but in our project would be to, plan to 2, 3, 4 days over the next few years, and we really want to rival the south.
Back in the day, people just went, oh well, we'll all go to Hobart and there's nothing happening in Launceston. We've grown that over the last few years with the events we've held down here, and this is just a great opportunity.
With the success of Beerfest, the move is expected to have a big impact on the local economy.
If we can even just keep the same numbers that we've been delivering at Beerfest for the last 8 years will bring in $1.5 to $2 million.
And while the name might suggest otherwise, the council has also promised to maintain the family-friendly atmosphere of Royal Eve.
We'll have kids' activities, we'll have jumping castles, face painting, obviously the fireworks at 9:30 for children as well.
Judy Augustine, Southern Cross News.
From a foundation of political controversy, Family Planning Tasmania is celebrating a milestone. Staff cutting the cake for its 45th birthday today. Over those decades, the organisation has faced persecution and controversy for its progressive approach to sexual and reproductive health. Despite the challenges, it forged ahead to serve the community.
In the beginning, we were focused on a lot around women's health and contraception. We're diversifying into other areas now, in particularly in the education space around respectful relationships.
Last year, more than 10,000 people sought assistance from Family Planning.
With just a week to go before the Seaball playoffs get underway, the Derwent Entertainment Centre is set to come alive with a pair of intrastate showdowns. The Hobart Chargers men's side needs a win to secure second spot on the ladder, while for the Thunder, a loss may spell the end of their 2018 season.
With more than just bragging rights at stake, the Chargers want to pack the deck to the rafters against the Northwest Thunder and Launceston Tornadoes. Chargers men's coach Anthony Stewart is confident of yet another win and says shutting down Mason Bragg will leave the Thunder exposed.
They're pretty reliant on him at the point guard position. They don't have much in the backup side of things. So, yeah, we'll put the torch on him and see how he responds.
Stewart is also hailing the return of Mathiang Muo on the eve of finals. Muo sank 24 points against Ballarat last week during limited court time.
Body's 100%, just need to get back in shape, so it's good that I got back in time where I get 3 or 4 games in before the playoff.
In the women's, a shootout is expected with Hobart's Clara Wisher and Launceston's Lauren Nicholson in season best form. But Hobart is confident it has the tougher, taller defence.
Clara's obviously stepping up now, and after lots of injury and just being very uncomfortable, and I think it was 8 weeks out, so to have her back and to have 37 from her on Sunday, like if we can get not necessarily that every weekend, but to get her on the board, and that's what we're looking for.
The Tawns are on a roll after overcoming Diamond Valley. Coach Derek Washington says it's further proof his team can win without Lauren Mansfield.
It's always going to be a great game against the Chargers. They're a great ball club. They're looking to get into the finals as well, but we're going to come back strong and ready to battle.
Tip-off on Friday for the women's is at 6, while the men's game starts at 8. Andrew McCarthy, Southern Cross News.
The Hobart Hurricanes have received an early gift from Cricket Australia, with a blockbuster clash against the Melbourne Stars scheduled for Christmas Eve. But the Blunston Arena game won't be all about big sixes and fireworks, with organisers also considering a post-match carols event to draw more fans through the gates.
4 games in Tasmania, 5 on the road, then a return for 3 more at home from late January. That's the schedule facing the Hobart Hurricanes as they look to go one better in BBL 8.
The best way to describe it is a frenzy of Big Bash games through that peak Christmas and New Year season.
The Hurricanes are now working to expand the family-focused entertainment on offer in the Christmas Eve time slot. And while Santa may be busy getting ready at the North Pole, they have plenty of ideas.
I think we definitely want to make something that it create an event people of Hobart want to come to, and I think there's a bit of a gap in the market with carols, so and that's the way we're looking at the moment.
Launceston will also feature in the short format frenzy with games at UTAS Stadium scheduled for December 30 and January 31. The acting mayor says it's a boon for the region's businesses.
One of the things that we got loud and clear from the retailers, from the hospitality venues, people loved it. There were people walking around the city everywhere, wearing their purple, staying in the city, having a coffee, having something to eat. It's just terrific for everyone.
The Hurricanes' first match will be against Brisbane on December 22 at the untested cricket venue of Metricon Stadium, with crowd numbers tipped to top those of the AFL's Gold Coast Suns.
I've no doubt that the Gold Coast supporters will get on board and people will come down from Brisbane as well.
Andrew McCarthy, Southern Cross News.
Good evening. Bushy Park, Campania and Hobart all on our warmest today of 15 degrees. The northern centres all on 13. And after a fine cool start to the day, the rain started to develop mainly over the north and west. Erebor 32 millimetres to 9 a.m, and to 3 p.m the best fall was 21 at Mount Reid, which may have included some snow melt. Smithton, Friendly Beaches, Grove and Ouse all 14 degrees. Low Head, St Helens and the Islands 13, Strawn a top of 12. There is mid to high level cloud increasing over the north of the state today as a cloud band moved over the western half of Tasmania and a little high cloud elsewhere. The band of cloud with the rain extends all the way from southwest WA. Some low cloud sits over Victoria and northern Queensland, some high cloud over central Western Australia. Tomorrow the cold front crosses Tasmania and traverses the southeast mainland. The centre of a high moves over the Bight, several troughs situated over the northern half of Australia. West to northwest winds at 25 to 35 knots around the coastline and to 20 knots over the lakes and to 25 at times. Swells in western and southern waters between 6 and 7 metres. A severe weather warning for damaging winds for the entire state. A gale warning for the remaining waters apart from the lower east where a strong wind warning exists. A small craft wind alert for the lakes. We also have a moderate flood warning for the North Esk, a minor warning for the Meander and Macquarie, a flood watch for many other catchments, a warning to sheep graziers in the north and east and a road weather alert for northern and central districts. Tomorrow, let's see what's happening now. Showers easing, a windy day and 13. 12 for Cygnet and 12 for New Norfolk with showers easing. Launceston, rain, wind, easing later, 13 the top, 13 for Devonport with that same forecast, 11 the high for Campbelltown. Burnie, rain, easing later, winds easing later as well, 13 the top, 12 for Strawn, conditions improving for Smithton later, but some heavy falls to start the day. Rain and wind easing for St Helens and 13, 14 for Swansea, rain for Fingal and 12. Mainly fine on Friday for the central north and east with a shower over the west and south with some small hail. Saturday a fine day for most, a shower though for the west and maybe later over the Bass Strait Islands. And on Sunday showers over the north and west, cloudy elsewhere, maybe a late shower. Partly cloudy in Perth, showers for Adelaide with some heavy falls, rain developing in Melbourne. Frosty but fine in Canberra, sunny also for Sydney, Brisbane and the centres further north. Little rain over Hobart, 12 at the moment, 12 in Launceston, 12 in Devonport. Joe, weather all over the place, but remember it's only 6 and a bit weeks to spring.
6 and a bit weeks, we're hanging in there. Thanks so much. Just before we leave you tonight, in news just in, we understand there's a power outage across parts of Launceston, but it is expected to be back on by 8 o'clock tonight. Thanks so much for your company. We'll see you a bit later. Bye-bye.